Do you ever feel like society took a wrong turn? That it went deeply wrong somewhere down the line? Well, you're not alone.
All joking aside, I think I've probably lived through the best 50 years of humanity, and now it's sort of taken a downward turn.
This was Ricky Gervais on the biggest talk show in Scandinavia, summing up how people are feeling today in just a few words. But this interview wasn't from today, it was almost 10 years ago in 2017. Predicting the next decade wasn't luck, it was just one of his many prophetic predictions. You see, Ricky called out Hollywood years before anyone else. He was decades ahead on the toxicity of social media. He was one of the first people to get away from the mainstream media and into podcasts, and he's made some really huge predictions that are coming true today. So what has he really been warning us about, and why? Well, unlike most celebrities, Ricky Gervais rose to fame based entirely on his own merit. Coming from a council estate in Reading, a large town in South England without too much going for it, his starting point was about as humble as you could get. Now, it's really hard to imagine, but for nearly the first 40 years of his life, Ricky was an absolute nobody. He was just a regular average Joe. He wasn't famous or rich, but he was a hard worker.
Yeah, we were poor and working class. My dad was a labourer, we lived in a council estate. My mum was a housewife.
Which is why he's become one of the main guys calling out the elites, because he's not from that class of people. So then how could he have become one of the biggest and most popular comedians on the planet? Well, later on in the interview, he was asked how he escaped mediocrity, and he had this to say.
I always knew I'd do what I wanted to do, and I always have. So I don't know, really.
It's this authenticity that would make Ricky successful, as he just kept working at his craft and eventually it all worked out. It wasn't immediate, he spent a lot of time working for obscure radio shows and even got fired at one point, but it didn't matter. That experience gave him everything he needed for his big break, and when he finally did make it into the mainstream with his show The Office, it was a smash success. In many ways, David Brent was Ricky's first big prediction. At the time, the character struck a nerve because everyone already knew him from their own lives. David Brent is really just a culmination of all the real life encounters Ricky had that you just can't make up. And then he said this about the character himself. His worst crime is that he confused respect with popularity. He wanted both but concentrated on the wrong one. He didn't really know what people wanted of him. He shouldn't really have worried about that at all. He just tried a little too hard. And you get the sense in the show that this came from the cameras themselves. As a character in a mockumentary, David Brent is aware he's being filmed and it influences how he acts. He's desperately trying to cling on to fame. It's another element of his character that Ricky Gervais also discussed. The Office was about fame, Ricky said in this 2016 interview. The biggest influence on The Office was probably me watching those quaint docu-soaps of the 90s where ordinary people got their 15 minutes of fame. Now the world's different, it's harsher. Now people will do anything to be famous. This is the reason that David Brent has aged so well. He was the first influencer, the vanguard of performing for the ever-present camera while losing your integrity in the process. But Ricky also said, even though it's just 20 or so years old, The Office itself wouldn't survive today because the culture around sitcoms has changed dramatically. He said, quote, "I think now it would suffer because people take things literally. There's these outrage mobs who take things out of context. I think if The Office was put on now, some people have lost their sense of irony and context." He added that the BBC itself would worry about some of the subjects and jokes, even though they were clearly ironic and were laughing at this buffoon being uncomfortable around difference. The problem is that the mainstream TV and film industry tries to prescribe a watered-down, sanitized version of life, as if this is all people want or can take. Ricky deliberately tries to contradict that fake dynamic to bring his comedy down to earth.
So as soon as something more honest and more realistic comes along, I've heard it said, an executive said, "Oh, can people take that? This is fiction. Their real life is worse, it's scarier. They've actually gone through it. Of course they can take it." After years and years of watering things down for this imagined palette, and I deal with taboo subjects for that reason, because I want to take the audience to a place it hasn't been before.
Ricky will have a lot more to say about social media, but even at this early stage, he could see what was on the horizon and he leveraged that far side to make one of the best and most watched comedies ever made. It wasn't just popular with regular audiences either. Every celebrity under the sun wanted a piece of Ricky and his authenticity, even David Bowie. Now, David Bowie was a man who was truly larger than life, and he saw something in Ricky. The respect went both ways. David Bowie had been Ricky's hero for years, well before he got so famous. So when they worked together in 2006, it was a dream come true. And it was truly an honor to have David Bowie personally perform a song about how much of a loser you are. But before we continue, I want to tell you about our video sponsor. Because one of the strange things about the modern internet is how much it depends on where you are. Entire websites, shows, and services can change depending on your location. And on top of that, your internet provider can see everything you do online. This is why a VPN is essential, and it's why I use one. The one I use being Surfshark, as it encrypts your internet traffic and routes it through secure servers around the world. That means your activity stays private and your connection is protected, whether you're on public Wi-Fi, traveling, or just browsing at home. It also lets you change your virtual location with a click. So if a site or service is restricted in your country, Surfshark can help you access the internet the way it was meant to be. And it's not just about privacy. Surfshark includes tons of things like built-in ad blocking, malware protection, and the ability to use it on unlimited devices with just a single account. You should check it out for yourself, so go to surfshark.com/moonreal or use code moonreal at checkout to get 4 extra months at Surfshark VPN. In many ways, their careers were very similar. They both came from almost nothing, climbing to the top of the world with talent and hard work. They could also both see the future and had warnings about it. And David Bowie made some eerily accurate predictions in the resurfaced BBC interview.
This is the thing that will change things. And the internet is now, carries the flag of being subversive and possibly rebellious and chaotic, nihilistic, and forget about the Microsoft element. The monopolies do not have a monopoly.
Jeremy Paxman, the interviewer and a long-time establishment figure, rejects this idea entirely. Well-spoken, highly educated, and among the British elites, he was used to dismantling easy targets. But this time, he's left in the dust by David Bowie's prescient genius.
But I don't agree. I think the internet, I don't think we've even seen the tip of the iceberg. I think the potential of what the internet is going to do to society, both good and bad, is unimaginable. I think we're actually on the cusp of something exhilarating and terrifying.
Today we know who was right, but Paxman disagrees immediately. He's so stuck in the aristocratic British class that he can't see the world is about to change completely naive to his own ignorance. But Bowie can, and he explains why it's fated to happen.
It's just a tool though, isn't it?
No, it's not. No, it's an alien life form.
But it's simply a different delivery system there. You're arguing about something more profound.
Oh yeah, I'm talking about the actual context, and the state of content is going to be so different to anything that we can really envisage at the moment. Where the interplay between the user and the provider will be so in simpatico, it's going to crush our ideas of what mediums are all about.
The interplay that Bowie notices and predicts is completely ahead of his time. Nearly 10 years later, it was recognized by the world at large as prod usage. The idea of an audience being the producers themselves, today it defines the modern digital world. And it could have led to one of the worst shifts in society we've ever seen in humanity. Perhaps Bowie was aware that this would happen when he talked about how terrifying this really was. But it was actually Ricky Gervais who talked about this more, way before anyone else truly understood it. Even when it was still a novelty in 2010, Gervais already had a love-hate relationship with Twitter. He talked about it in interviews far before anyone else, saying there's something a bit undignified about adults using it, particularly celebrities who seem to be showing off by talking to each other in public. He saw how this was a perfect tool for virtue signaling and how it was going to undermine culture. It almost made him quit, but he couldn't resist how influential it was going to be. He knew the online medium was going to be the next big thing for comedy. He even posted a few celebrity dicks like this one criticizing beauty influencers.
Ricky G here, wellness and beauty influencer. As a celebrity, I know all about stuff, like science and politics. So trust me when I tell you who you should vote for. If you don't vote the right way, it's like a hate crime. It makes me sad and angry, and I'll leave the country. And you don't want that.
Ricky stayed relevant for years through his online presence, using it more effectively than other celebrities, and he saw the same potential in podcasts. After seeing how outdated all these media institutions like the BBC truly were, after their interviews with his friend David Bowie, along with the Hollywood elites always dangling the lure of movie parts in front of Ricky at any chance they could, he decided he'd had enough of the industry. He resisted all temptations as he had something else in mind. Instead of grinding it out in Hollywood or the mainstream media, he went back to the basics with funny, authentic people. By recognizing the relatable genius of a working class guy like Carl Pilkington and building a podcast show around him, Ricky pushed his star even higher. His podcast with him became massively popular, eventually spawning the whole new wave of TV shows like An Idiot Abroad. He then stayed on the podcast circuit and continued to make his own prophetic predictions, like this one from 2014.
Now everyone has a platform
Yes.
for social media, and now even real news reads tweets.
Yeah, you
and now
see 'em all
people
the
even
time.
report other people's reports. So they say, well, so-and-so didn't like it, which is the most irrelevant piece of information I've ever heard in my life.
Yes.
You know, when it comes down to opinion, I don't care what hearsay of someone's opinion is. I only care what yours is, so we can discuss it. Or, you know.
It mirrors what Bowie was talking about years before. Media companies began to incorporate social media rants as part of the news itself. They framed it as a kind of voice of the people, a way for them to incorporate the democratic process. But really, it's not that at all. It's the voice of the mob, the loudest version of something pushed to the top by algorithms selecting the most inflammatory thing possible. It's also inherently polarizing, as one person's feed could easily be worlds apart from another, even when in real society they're from very similar backgrounds or even friends.
The frightening thing about social media and having everything on your phone is that every one of us sees the world differently. Your world is very different to mine. How you see it, and that's on purpose. They do it on purpose. They feed you.
They shovel you what they think you want, right?
It's like I've spoken to people like, you know, really close friends. I go, oh, so and so, he's a hero, isn't he? I go, no, he's a villain. I go, what? You go, look. I go, well, I haven't got that. He's done what? No, look, that. It's a completely different perception of the world.
Yeah.
The effect on people is terrible, and it subtly turns everyone into David Brent by rewarding that kind of behavior. As time went on, it became the new normal, but it had its worst effects on the highest levels of society. The internet and the spread of information opened up their lives to the world. Scandal after scandal showed us how depraved Hollywood and Hollywood culture really are. Other celebrities like Mel Gibson talked about it and got cancelled completely. It was only Ricky Gervais who could get away with telling it how it is by using humour as a shield. Now, everyone remembers the famous Golden Globe speech from 2020. By then, it was well known that Weinstein and Epstein and Polanski had been swept under the rug. Ricky was just the first one to call them out on it in such a public and cutting way.
Spoiler alert, season 2 is on the way, so in the end, he obviously didn't kill himself. Just like Jeffrey Epstein. Shut up. I know he's your friend, but I don't care. You had to make your own way here in your own plane, didn't you?
Where he pretty much killed the entire ceremony of self-congratulation. Today, it's just a shadow of its former self ever since. But that was the product of years of resentment towards the industry. Nearly 10 years before, Ricky had gone through a very similar experience. When he hosted the Golden Globes that year, he wasn't afraid to make jokes about anyone and everyone. Some of them were actually received well. Johnny Depp played along when Ricky made fun of him.
His film The Tourist, causing his career to plummet so far that he was forced to work with me on my new show, Life's Too Short. Johnny Depp!
Oh boy, he's fun.
They were both authentic people, and Depp later appeared in the skit from the same year.
Here are my jokes. What is nastier than Ricky Gervais's jokes? His teeth. Why do people take an instant dislike to Ricky Gervais? Because it saves time.
But other people in Hollywood saw Gervais exposing them too much. He made a jab about Scientology and its role in Hollywood, and that didn't go over very well with the in-house audience, but aged like fine wine for everyone else at home.
Jim Carrey and Ewan McGregor, 2 heterosexual actors pretending to be gay. So the complete opposite of some famous Scientologists then.
But it was the overall way that Ricky spoke his mind without a filter that upset Hollywood.
I've done it 5 times over 10 years, and it's always been the same vibe. I'm gonna sort of tease the room for the people at home watching who aren't millionaires and winning awards, you know, because people have suddenly been, you know, vocal about how they're sick of being lectured by people. They're sick of multi-millionaires telling them to clean out their coffee jar and put it in the right bin to save the planet, and they know that celebrity is just come here in a limousine and is going to get a private jet to his island.
He described the choice like this.
Do I pander to the 200 egos in the room? The most beautiful, wealthiest, privileged people on the planet, or the 200 million people watching at home in their pants who aren't winning an award, who aren't millionaires. It was a no-brainer, right?
And like everyone did at home, he felt it worked because it was totally justified and none of it was untrue.
It wasn't mental. Everything was justified. I researched those jokes. I made sure it was fair. I wouldn't say anything to go, well, that's not fair. He didn't do that. I'd go, only tell the truth. I didn't out anyone. I didn't do anything it was not in public. I didn't do anything that was something they couldn't help. It was about their behaviours.
Yes.
When he was invited to appear on The View shortly afterwards, they tried to punish him for it in any way they could. When he sits down, they almost grope him. It's uncomfortable, but then a minute later, they're accusing him of sexism.
You germaphobe?
No, they said keep it quick, just go and sit down.
Oh, okay, so we can touch you?
Yeah, of course.
I'm like, wow, we just thought you were huggy. Because you gave hugs the last time you were here.
I feel like a strippergram. Yeah.
A little sexist.
No, it's not. Why is it sexist?
Well, because the girl is saying that the girls are older and they need to be airbrushed.
No, I think they look great at their age. Why hide it?
Oh.
I don't think that you lose your sensuality or your beauty because you hit 53. I'm saying, why are they hiding it?
Oh, I see. That's not what people
The way that Ricky turns it around on them is genius. The audience immediately recognizes the truth, and the host can't do anything about it. Then the panel of the 5 women asked him why a show he was doing at the time only had male comedians. His immediate response puts them on the back foot.
Hey, so I want to ask you about the HBO special, Talking Funny. We just saw a clip from it, right? So we got Jerry Seinfeld, Chris Rock, Louis C.K. No women comedians on that panel?
Who would you replace?
I don't know.
No, because it was 4 people.
Because it's just 4 people.
Yeah, so who would you take off?
I wouldn't. I would just add.
There you go.
It's amazing to watch him in action, just dismantling these baseless, passive-aggressive attacks with even more jokes. He knows what's going on here. The View and Hollywood at large are feeding off of the outrage. They're enamored with Ricky because of his authenticity, his realness, and his ability to call them out for their hypocrisy. But they also have to manufacture outrage at the same time, trying to create something out of nothing. When he asks them who they'd replace on his comedy show, he's confronting the fact that these are unconstructive criticisms, simply based on made-up emotions that people might be having with no real basis in reality, all manufactured to make you conform with the mainstream narrative. By asking them to give an actual solution to point out what's actually wrong, he exposes that fact and they immediately have to backtrack. It was this authenticity that made Hollywood bring Ricky back to host time after time, and what eventually landed them in trouble in 2020, when he actually exposed them for all of their hypocrisy. As it was the same culture in Hollywood that protected the powerful and hid their crimes and their perversions for so many years. This idea that they're better than anyone else and that they were in the position to lecture the world on how to do better, when they were more corrupted and rotten than almost anyone else. This self-importance and unwillingness to stand up to clear injustices was on full show just a few years later, when Will Smith stood up on stage and slapped Chris Rock for a harmless joke, all while the rest of Hollywood did nothing, and even worse, applauded him afterwards. So it wasn't surprising that Ricky and his takedown went viral again the day after. You get catharsis from Ricky telling these people in their ivory tower how it really is, but it doesn't fully mask the tragedy of how much better Hollywood could have been. He's able to avoid that culture because he grew up outside of it. It's something he openly acknowledges. In an interview with 60 Minutes, he had this to say.
And I said, why didn't I do this earlier? And she said, because you wouldn't have been any good at it.
Ricky has always had to keep one foot on the ground because it's the only way he could continue to make good art. Otherwise, he'd completely lose himself in the world of Hollywood, and everything that made him great would slowly disappear. Just like we saw with James Corden, who similarly came from a working class background, got sucked up into the Hollywood elitosphere, and became everything he would have hated.
But you're treating it like an insult, and it's a compliment that they would love you to laugh at them because they like you so much.
Yes, because it would make them think that they're on the same level, and they're not.
But it's not like someone going up to a doctor and going, can I take your appendix out?
Yes, it is.
No, it's not.
It is to
we
me.
don't do that thing. We're not that important.
The great thing about Ricky's view, unlike other celebrities, is that he understands he's just an entertainer. He understands that celebrities aren't doctors or pilots or anyone with life and death responsibility. He's perfectly willing to laugh at himself, especially when he realizes that he's fallen out of touch after so many years of fame.
Brown flakes.
Brown flakes,
Shredded
different.
wheat.
They're good for you.
Don't try and backtrack.
No.
I don't know why you've never... It's like you're in this world where they don't have cornflakes anymore.
No.
Unbelievable.
He's been saying these sorts of things for years, even if they got buried for a long time. His 2016 speech after receiving a BAFTA was laced with sarcasm as he took jabs at Hollywood and their self-importance.
Well, I knew I'd won, and I didn't prepare a speech. It's all about celebrities, which are the best people in the world. And what I'm taking from this is you and everyone in show business is saying to me that I'm better than Charlie Chaplin.
But really, the bottom line is that Ricky is more concerned with what's going on in the world. He accurately saw what would happen as this Hollywood social media culture infected the rest of society. He talked about it years before anyone else.
I don't know, all joking aside, I think I've probably lived through the best 50 years of humanity. And now it's sort of taken a downward turn. This last year hasn't been so good. And it's true, my opinion is worth as much as your opinion, but people started thinking that my opinion was worth as much as your facts. And that's just not true. And that came from people finding their groups, and on social media, they found their mobs. They found comfort with like-minded people, and it was like two armies. Well, social media is just another form of communication, another outlet. It only amplifies things. You can't say everyone's a critic, everyone's a blogger, everyone's a journalist, And all it does is it just amplifies it. Twitter is like being able to read every toilet wall in the world.
Yes.
It's this amplification that has damaged society so much, taking the loudest voices online, mixing them together and creating a sort of feedback loop where everything only gets more and more extreme as time goes on. That toilet wall has become culture. We need those voices of reason to cut through the noise and give us a bit of truth. 10 years on, after a decade of toilet wall amplification, people like him are much more important. We're all being provoked and pulled in different directions 24/7 online. The real question is, what is he saying today? What are his next predictions? Well, surprisingly, he's optimistic. In a tweet from just a few years ago, he had this to say: "I know that the world seems a bit mental at the moment, but I'm optimistic that this will all turn out okay when humanity is wiped out."